Winter is coming. This sounds like a very normal statement. It is just an announcement that a season is coming. Yet, this line, winter is coming, has been used with a lot of significance in a very popular TV series, The Game of Thrones. Most of you must have watched The Game of Thrones. It is about a fantasy continent where a lot of families, seven warring families, are fighting for the Iron Throne. The Iron Throne that will make the climate all powerful. So, in this story, you can see a great many subplots. There are men and women of extraordinary valor and cunning. There are fire breathing dragons. There are night creatures from the ice lands. There are wizards, sorcerers, and just like every epic, there are so many twists. But what makes this story very amazing and something very unique is the use of seasons. The summer and winter. The summer lasts for decades. The sun is constantly shining bright. Imagine a world where the sun does not set. And at the same time, we also see that the winter can last for generations, making it so cold for the people in this fantasy drama land that the very civilization that they live in tends to get wiped out. So it is something so fearsome. Both seasons are so fearsome. Winter is coming, therefore, gains a lot of prominence. It is, metaphorically speaking, it is a warning to be on the alert, for survival. So, this story is taken from A Song of Ice and Fire, a fantasy novel written by George R. Martin. And this is in turn inspired by the great American poet Robert Frost's Fire and Ice. So today we're going to talk about fire and ice. Let's go into the poem. Fire and ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So here the poet starts the poem by saying that some people say that the world will end in fire. Some say that the world will end in ice. But from what the poet himself has tasted of desire, he holds with those people who favor fire. So here fire and ice, they are used symbolically. What does fire bring to mind? Fire stands for greed, for avarice, for ambition, for cruelty, for rage. It is anger. So here, by using an element of nature, Frost is talking about the fire raging in man's heart, in man's soul. That fire that he uses to consume, to destroy the world around him. We have heard from time immemorial about so many revolutions. There have been revolutions and wars all over the world. Human beings have even used nuclear atomic weapons on their fellow beings. During the World War II, we know that America has detonated atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And throughout, even today, to this day, we know that wars rage in various places. And there have been countries that were colonized. The British have colonized India, Africa, Afghanistan, and all these countries have had to face being plundered, being burnt, being erased. So many civilizations have been burnt. So for all this, fire, and what Frost tells us is, it is the fire inside a person, inside men, their greed, their need to destroy, their desire to possess what belongs to another. This is what causes this hatred. So here we are led to think of an apocalyptic question that has been there from the time philosophers have started talking and thinking. When will the world come to an end? And Frost says that fire is good enough. Fire has the power to consume the world. We have learned of that popular saying that Nero was playing the fiddle when Rome was burning. We do not know if the fiddle existed back then, but we do know the message that the king was least bothered when his countrymen were burning in flames. The hatred of one man towards an entire community of Jews caused them to be burnt alive. The racial hatred between the whites towards their black brothers caused years and years of enslavement, which, when you think about it, is it human even? It is something unbelievable. So there is no limit to how much the human hatred can do. Now we go to the second para. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and wood suffers. So, next, he points out that cold ice is also enough, it will also suffer. The very line, if it had to perish twice, we can also take it as if it had to perish twice over, which would mean that ice is not only as strong as fire, it could be even more stronger, or else equally, definitely equally stronger. If the world is given two chances, then ice would also suffice. Ice symbolically stands for the coldness, the insensitivity, the lack of empathy that human beings have towards their fellow beings. It is the good man's silence that has often caused the evil man's actions to destroy those around him. Even when one part of the world enslaves another, there are a great many other people who quietly, calmly continue on their own way, doing nothing about the evil that they are witnessing. And those who witness thus coldly, they too become part of that cruelty, that destruction. In India, we know that reading the history of India during the period of the colonizers killed more people by starving them than by bullets. So here you can see how coldly you can be so calculated, so cold, so insensitive that you can watch your brother die of thirst and hunger, which is even more cruel than killing them with bullets or bombs. So, coldness also can definitely cause destruction. Now, this poem Robert Frost wrote right after the First World War, when the whole world showed that they could come together not for peace but come together to fight. And it's very ominous and amazing that Frost's poetry, every single poem of Robert Frost, is for all time and all ages. It is never for only for the period that he wrote. And as if to prove that his writing of how he says to perish twice, as if to prove that history does not learn from the mistakes made, we see that the Second World War follows close. Even before our poet has predicted, he has just written this poem after the First World War. The Second World War also comes in 1940. So again, it continues. So now let us go into the details of the poem. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. The poet starts writing in a very glib fashion, as if it's a normal conversation, almost trivial gossip. That is how we say, some people say this and some people say that. I personally think such and such. So it is in a very simple manner, as if he is talking about a very insignificant thing that he talks, so that the reader is lulled into thinking that this is something very trivial. And then he presents to you the most apocalyptic question, the end of the world. And tasted of desire, the word tasted means what I have observed or what I have experienced in my life about desire. He knows the power of man's desire, man's passion, what it can lead to. So that is a metaphor, tasted of desire. And he then says, like, that if it had to perish twice, he knows enough of hatred that is coming through coldness too. So here we have to see that Robert Frost was inspired by Dante's Inferno. In Dante's Inferno, the devil, Lucifer, is not seen in fire. In fact, Dante puts his devil in ice. The Emperor Dolores, with his breast, up to his breast, in ice. The devil is shown as stuck in between ice, that is, up to his waist, he is covered in ice. And only his wings and his chest are above the ice, and his wings keep flapping. That is to bring the cold air. The more he flaps his wings, the more cold air it is, freezing everything around him, freezing it such that everything around him becomes lifeless. So here too we see that in Fire and Ice, Robert Frost is definitely taking from this emperor, that is Lucifer. And if you take Milton's Paradise Lost, Milton says hell is a literal furnace. Hell is boiling fire. So both ice and fire, both are equally used to show us hell. So Frost is also telling the reader that every little action of man can lead towards the apocalyptic end as well as towards peace. He is an eternal optimist. And we see that one kind deed, one ray of sunshine, when it shines on a block of ice, it brings brightness there. So the literary devices used in the poem are favor fire, that is alliteration, tasted of desire, that is a metaphor, enjambment is there because there is from yeah, but if it had to perish twice, continuing of an idea from one line to the second, that is called enjambment. Symbolism, ice and fire, they are symbolizing lack of empathy as well as hatred and passion. Then Robert Frost. Robert Frost is definitely the poet laureate of his times. His writing, his philosophy has shaped American culture and education throughout his life. He is a political poet. He is a nature poet. Stopping by the woods on a snowy evening proves him to be a nature poet. The tree at my window shows that he is an imagist. Fire and ice show him to be a symbolic poet. Acquainted with the night proves him to be an urban poet. Birches shows individualism. So all his poems give him all these titles. When Frost himself was asked that of all these titles, which one would he prefer to be called, he said, I embrace all these, for these are the ideals of America: freedom, individualism. The road not taken shows man's power to take that path which has not been taken, to find himself, to go in search of his own identity. So every poem reveals the all the qualities that his very country represents. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, was said to have carried around a book of Frost's poems, and it was there on his bedside to his dying day. Thank you.
Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say The world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice.